Marshall and NC State isn't exactly a highlight of the weekend. It's not a marquee game, but it's definitely an interesting game to pay attention to. Marshall is undefeated coming into this game, and NC State is going through a quarterback change. So there are things that Marshall is doing really well, but beating a team like NC State requires you to play at another level, and especially on the road, that makes things even more difficult. When you look at the Marshall Thunder and Herd, the return of Rasheen Ali has been one of the best returns of any team in college football. The running back was going through some personal issues last year, came back towards the end of the year, and so far in 2023 has showed that he is an absolute monster. The rushing attack has been really good for Marshall so far, and if you can find a way to open up the passing attack, then I think this offense gets even better. Marshall is a team in the Sun Belt that is a consistent contender. They are very good at what they do, and Charles Huff has done a great job not only of recruiting but getting his talent to play at a higher level. The defense also deserves a lot of love for Marshall as well. You look at what they have in Owen Porter, you look at what they have in Mike Abraham, Eli Neal. They have plenty of talent to be disruptive and to find ways to win football games. So far, they have wins over Albany. A trip to ECU went their way. They stunned Virginia Tech, and then obviously they hung on and came back against Old Dominion. So it hasn't been the most confident wins, but they have definitely found ways to win football games. And right now, that's something that they can hang their hat on. They can find ways to utilize that. They can build off that momentum. And beating a team like NC State would give them a ton of confidence heading into the rest of Sun Belt play. For NC State, we entered the MJ Morris era, and I think that Brennan Armstrong, obviously, we thought things were going to go better, but it simply has not been the case. This isn't the explosive offense we expected the reunion of Armstrong and Robert Anae to be. But luckily, they have a guy in MJ Morris who showed some exciting things towards the end of last year. And now he gets an opportunity to remind everyone why he won the starting job or essentially took over the offense towards the end of 2022. The defense should play a huge role as well, not maybe as explosive or as dominant as they once were, but Peyton Wilson is still really fun to watch. A big time player who knows how to win big games and not necessarily think this is a big game for NC State, but it essentially is because a loss here would kill a lot of momentum. It would kill a lot of the energy in the locker room. And this is definitely one that they need to take serious. And if they're not careful, Marshall's definitely a team that can pull off an upset and find a way to win. The keys will be finding a way to utilize the matchups that Marshall is good at versus the ones that they maybe have some weaknesses. And right now, NC State is the more talented team. Obviously, that shouldn't be a surprise. But I think there are plenty of matchups that Marshall can find ways to win that will change the momentum of this game. Owen Porter plays a huge role in that. He has had a huge year in 2022, and so far he's off to an even better start in 2023. He has a big matchup against Anthony Belton. I think that his ability to get after the quarterback could shake up MJ Morris a little bit, and that would help this defense out tremendously. Rasheen Ali and Peyton Wilson are two of the best players on their teams, and they will go head to head anytime that they meet in the trenches. Rasheen Ali has plenty of explosiveness in his frame. His legs are thick as tree trunks, and he is someone who can run over and run past anyone. So if Peyton Wilson in that the linebacker, the second level, can find ways to slow him down and maybe even load up the box, then you're looking at a group that could be really exciting. Now, the passing attack for NC State is probably the biggest X factor. I think the passing attacks, I should say, for both teams are the X factor. But for NC State, you're waiting for this group to step up, not only as the quarterback position, but also at wide receiver. So far, you haven't seen a ton of players step up and be that reliable target. Now, there are many reasons for that, but if you can find a passing attack, I think NC State's offense opens up tremendously. Mike Abraham will have his hands full against those wide receivers. There's still plenty of talent for him to face, but I think that this is an NC State team that is still figuring out some questions to get answers for. And then obviously we talked about for MJ Morris what he needs to do. Cam Fancher also plays a big role. I think that his ability to move the ball down the field efficiently, utilize play action, feel very comfortable, plays a huge role in what Marshall can do against this NC State team. Keys to the game, we already just mentioned it. You have to help Rasheen Ali out. He can't run the football every single play. Cam Fancher has to be able to throw the ball. The other thing is wreak havoc. They are playing with a lot of confidence and they have found ways to win games. Even if it's ugly, you found ways to win games. Now you have to wreak havoc on an NC State team that's reeling a little bit. They're coming off of a tough loss to Louisville where their offense struggled mightily. So you know they're going to bounce back. They do have a new quarterback, so maybe you can find a way to switch things up and get the momentum in your favor. And that will help you set the tone. If you're wreaking havoc, creating turnovers, and moving the ball through the air, NC State's probably going to have to recalibrate and figure out what's going wrong and how do they fix that. And by that point, maybe it's too late. Marshall's not the most explosive offense and doesn't put up points at a blistering pace. But if you can jump out to a 2 or 3 score lead, that might be enough to help you pull off the upset. For NC State, load the box. For right now, if Cam Fancher can beat you, we've yet to see it. Load up the box, take away Rasheen Ali, and find ways to force Cam Fancher to beat you. And then I think you have to rediscover MJ Morris's magic from last year. Even though it was a small sample size, he had 648 yards and 7 touchdowns towards the end of the year. So he was playing really well. And I think that that's something that they can rediscover that will help them tremendously. Starting that will help by running the ball. And if you can't establish the run, it doesn't matter what you do in terms of passing. Right now, I think that this is an offense that could be better at running the football. And if they can get better, the offense will thrive because the passing attack will be able to get open. And MJ Morris is a talented passer, but if nobody's open or if they can't give him time to throw, it's not going to matter what he can do. And continuing on with the quarterbacks, we talked about MJ Morris. I think he's a really exciting player, can utilize his legs. That's an underrated part of his game we haven't seen yet because the sample size is too small. Both quarterbacks, Fancher and Morris, whichever one plays well probably determines who wins this game. Because if they're forcing turnovers, which right now Fancher is struggling in that department, I think that really opens things up for the opposition. You're finding ways to help your team, but if you're giving the ball back to the opposition, then your team is in trouble. And right now, both quarterbacks still have to prove their worth. So this is going to be an interesting game. I think the tough part is picking this game because for me, Marshall is so exciting, but the problem is that they feel one-dimensional on offense. When NC State comes to play, I trust their defense to get the ball back to their offense. And I think that Cam Fancher's inability to take care of the football right now is really what scares me the most. And if he can't take care of the football and if they can't run the football, it doesn't matter what NC State essentially does offensively, they will find a way to win this game. So right now, I'm leaning NC State, but I think that Marshall has the upset ability. You have to find a way to play better than you did against Virginia Tech, but you definitely have the confidence. You've built some momentum from going 4-0. And if NC State's not careful, Marshall can do the same thing to them.